This is In the Circle on Fast Pitch News.
And we welcome you to another edition of D2 Tuesday here on our In the Circle YouTube channel. Victor Anderson here with you. We got a lot to get into today. The NFCA Classic concluded this past weekend in Columbus, Georgia, and a champion has been crowned, a champion that not many people expected. We're going to talk about that coming up on this particular episode. Also, we're going to talk about the latest NFCA 25, top 25, I mean to say, that came out earlier today. Also, we will go into some of the conferences that you wanted me to talk about by hitting us up on our In the Circle Twitter account. Make sure you rate and review our podcast. Follow us on our social media platforms. And make sure you follow us each and every Tuesday as we continue the road to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Let's waste no other time. Let's go into the top 25 for the NFCA that was released earlier this morning. No surprise, Rogers State, the defending national champions, continuing his stranglehold on the number one spot, receiving all 18 first place votes. Came up with a midweek doubleheader sweep versus Northwestern Oklahoma State, 7-0, 7-1, respectively. North Georgia and Tampa each moved up a spot to number 2 and number 3, respectively. Mike Davenport and the Nighthawks, 15-1 on the season, 5-0 for last week. Started Peach Belt play, winning 3 straight from new conference member USC Beaufort, 7-0, 6-0, and 5-2. Tampa moving up to 3rd. They swept their conference opener versus Palm Beach Atlantic, 2-1, 4-1, 8-0, all at the friendly confines at Vincent Naomi Family Field. That reason they moved up is because Texas Tyler dropped down to Angelo State, Texas Tyler fell to Angelo State and fell from number 2 to number 4. In the process, Texas Tyler actually lost their conference series versus the Ramblers. By the way, Lone Star Conference play started early in the month. So they won their conference matchup versus Cameron, swept them before losing 2 out of 3 to Angelo State. Lost 2 3-2 victories before I also knocked off the Ramblers 7-0. Cal State, San Marcos, Southern Arkansas all moved up one spot. Cal State, San Marcos continuing their strong run of the CCAA. They move up to number 5. Southern Arkansas moves up to 6. Lubbock Christian jumps up 2 spots from number 9 to number 7. Grand Valley State, who will be in Clearwater as part of this, in Clearmont, not Clearwater, as part of the spring games. They jump up 4 spots from number 12 to number 8. Central Oklahoma, number 9. Seton Hill drops the furthest from teams who were previously in the top 10. They fall from number 5 to number 10. U of Indy is number 11. Alabama Huntsville, who had a strong weekend in Columbus, Georgia, makes the biggest jump from any team in the top 25. They go from number 17 to number 11. Valdosta State, fellow Gulf South Conference member, fell 5 spots from number 8 to number 13. Cal State Dominguez Hills goes number 14 to Delphi, falls 4 spots from number 11 to number 15. Anderson goes from 15 to 16. Concordia Irvine, now number 17. Washburn is at 18. Simona State 19. Colorado Christian cracks the top 25 at the receiving votes. They are number 20. Lenore Ryan is at number 21. West Texas A&M, the undefeated Lady Buffs, come in at number 22, ranked for the first time this season. Here come Aaron Kindenberger and the St. Leo Lions, ladies and gentlemen. 13-1 are the Lions as of the latest poll. They come in receiving votes to number 23. Wilmington, who just split a doubleheader with St. Leo over at University Family Stadium, they go to number 24, and St. Mary's go from number 21 to number 25. Lincoln Memorial, Oklahoma Christian, Nova Southeastern, all out of the poll. After being in it last week, teams receiving votes: Oklahoma Christian, Harding, Nova Southeastern, Wingate, Oklahoma Baptist, Angelo State, Carson Newman, and Illinois Springfield. Those are the teams receiving votes in the NFCA Top 25. Couple of interesting notes in the top 25, looking at things over. We mentioned the 3 new teams at the top 25: Colorado Christian, West Texas A&M, St. Leo. A combined 36-3 in the poll. Split the doubleheader Monday versus Wilmington. Won the first game, lost the second game. St. Leo's 2 losses this year were a pair of 1-0 scores. One to Wilmington, the other one being to Spring Hill a couple of weekends ago. Outside of that, St. Leo and Aaron Kimberg, they have a form of a team that could make a charge and contend with Tampa and Nova Southeastern in the Sunshine State Conference. We will get in more in depth about the Sunshine State Conference on a future episode of D2 Tuesday, as the Lions have some marquee matchups coming up in the month of March. National Players of the Week in the NFCA. First of all, the Player of the Week, Courtney Wingren, out of Adelphi, the sophomore, powered Adelphi to a 5-2 week, hitting .524, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 13 runs scored. And oh, by the way, drew 5 walks and was a perfect 5 for 5 in stolen bases. Had a home run, 4 RBIs in a victory versus UNC Pembroke, and had 3 runs scored versus Shippensburg, and had multiple runs scored in 6 of the 7 games played. The pitcher of the league, Taylor Franco from Lubbock Christian, went 3-0, 22 innings of scoreless softball with 30 strikeouts as the Lady Chaps went 6-0 in Lone Star Conference play. Got an 8-inning shutout versus Texas Women's College. Added a 1-hit, 5-inning shutout at Midwestern State, striking out 7 and walking 3. And what makes this so remarkable is that she did it while starting games and also having a pair of scoreless relief outings. And for the week, she did not allow an extra base hit and held opponents to a .085 batting average. So the Lady Chaps are definitely going to have a lot to say about who takes home the Lone Star Conference Championship. Maybe they're the ones who can be in the mix with Texas Tyler and West Texas A&M as they battle for Lone Star Conference supremacy. Other players we must give acknowledgement to during the week. Mackenzie Devine, Missouri Western. We will be talking about the Griffins in just a moment. .471, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs. Devine, for her efforts, was named the MIAA Hitter of the Week for her outstanding performance at the NFCA Leadoff Classic, which we will talk about very shortly. Taylor Macera from Valdosta State. In case you are wondering, yes, she is the daughter of head coach Tom Macera. .409, 6 home runs, 12 RBIs, a 1.227 slugging percentage. Karina Ortiz Munoz, .412 batting average, 4 RBIs, had a .474 on base percentage. Riley Rohr from Concordia hit .385, 4 RBIs, 3 home runs. J.T. Smith for UT Tyler, another solid week for her, .667 on base percentage. Anne-Marie Stanbridge out of West Alabama. Keep that name in mind for a dark horse for Gulf South Conference Player of the Year honors. .556, 4 home runs, and 6 RBIs for her. On the pitching side, another ace in the stable for Coach Les Studeman at UAH. Katie Bracken, 2-0, pair of shutouts, 3 walks, 14 strikeouts, through a no-hitter versus Carson Newman, as the Chargers won that game 9-0. Lindsey Hips, who was a recipient of some of the production by Wengren earlier last week from Adelphi, 3-1, 1.54 ERA, 64 strikeouts last weekend, through a perfect game versus UNC Pembroke with 20 strikeouts. Lindsey Hibbs, National Pitcher of the Year candidate for sure. Kayla Laird for West Texas A&M had a program record 18 strikeouts, threw a perfect game herself versus UT Permian Basin last weekend. Ellie Altonson from McKendree College, 3-0, 3 complete games with an ERA of 1. And Joni Russell from Hillsdale, 3-0, .47 ERA, 36 strikeouts, 4 walks, and 19 innings of work. Just some of the other performances recognized by the NFCA, with Wengren and Franco capturing the Louisville Slugger Wilson Division II Player and Pitcher of the Week honors. Moving backward to the NFCA Leadoff Classic that took place last weekend over at the South Common Softball Complex in Columbus, Georgia, a place that I've had a chance to cover games at for Rollins College when they participated in the NFCA Leadoff Classic. Congratulations to Missouri Southern, who beat Alabama Huntsville by run differential to take home the NFCA Leadoff Classic Championship. Missouri Western propelled themselves to the title, knocking off Northern State behind St. Peterson's complete Game 6 hit shutout while striking out 8 batters. The Griffins also knocked off Ohio Dominican 8-1, Bridgeport 6-2, Shaw 9-1, and an extra inning win over Charleston and Coach Michelle Frew 6-5 in 8 innings. Alabama Huntsville rallied from a 2-0 deficit, beat Lemoyne 5-2 to close out their tournament 5-0. They beat number 25 ranked Wilmington, Georgian Cord, Northern State, and Carson Newman to be the only 2 teams to finish undefeated in the NFCA Leadoff Classic. The all-tournament teams, some of the notables that were recognized: Jules Ryan out of Gannon College. We mentioned Joni Russell from Hillsdale, Katie Tuggle from Lincoln Memorial, Mackenzie Devine from Missouri Western. We'll talk about her numbers in just a moment. Kaylee Golden from Ohio Dominican, Katie Bracken from Alabama Huntsville, Haley Dowin from Wilmington, and Belle Bond out of Embry-Riddle. It's just some of the names of the NFCA Division II Leadoff Classic All-Tournament team. Go to nfca.org. Go to the Tournament Central page, and you can find out the full results of the Division II NFCA Leadoff Classic. Now, the team that may be sneaking under the radar is Wingate. Wingate went 4-1 on the weekend. The big one was when they dumped Cal U 16-0. Cal U, that was their only blemish that was one of 2 blemishes the Vulcans had in the tournament as well. Embry-Riddle went 3-1, while Ohio Dominican, Hillsdale, the host, Columbus State, Carson Newman, and Georgia Southwestern posted 3-2 marks in the NFCA Leadoff Classic. So our congratulations to the Griffins and Alabama Huntsville, the co-champions, but Missouri Western captures the Classic by virtue of the tiebreaker and the run differential. Now, the Griffins, coming into the tournament, were trying to find their way through the season. They came into the tournament at 5-3, beg your pardon, and they were really riding some momentum going into it. They had swept the Alvey Early Memorial Classic in Arkansas, and then they sweep their way through the NFCA Leadoff Classic. They are winners of 9 in a row after starting the season 1-3. But if you think about the 3 they lost a 1-run game to Concordia St. Paul 2-1. They lost in extra innings versus Minnesota Duluth 8-5 in 11 innings. They lost a 1-run game to Minnesota State, who were receiving votes at the time 7-6 as part of the Minnesota State D2 Softball Classic. Now you've won 9 in a row. You have momentum on your side going into MIAA play starting this weekend as they go to Nebraska Kearney and travel to Fort Hays State before returning home to participate and host the Fairfield Inn and Suites Softball Classic. Well, they'll be taking on Upper Iowa, St. Cloud State, Augustana, Bemidji State, and Wayne State at St. Joseph and the Spring Sports Complex. So that's going to be a very fun team to watch. And we mentioned Mackenzie Devine named the MIAA Hitter of the Week. 11 RBIs, 3 home runs, hit .471, also had a pair of triples and 6 runs scored in that trip to Columbus, Georgia. So keep an eye out on Missouri Western. They could be a team that can throw a monkey wrench into the Washburn, Rogers State, Central Oklahoma triumvirate in the MIAA as they get ready to kick off conference play this weekend. Of course, Rogers State, the reigning defending national champions and the number 1 ranked team in Division II. Now, Rogers State and Washburn, those 2 teams are going to be coming to Florida to participate in the spring games this upcoming weekend. They'll be over in Clearmont, Florida. So Rogers State, Washburn, joining a ton of teams in Division II who'll be making their way over to Clearmont and Leesburg, respectively, to get themselves ready for some quality competition. And make sure you go to the Spring Games website for full information, and you can find tickets. And who knows? Maybe we are in the circle. Maybe I make my trip down to Clearmont because do have to weekend off after, also go to thespringgames.com for schedules, ticket information, and finding out where everything is available. And of course, if you want to see the games and you can't get to watch them up close and in person, go to flowsoftball.com, and that's all I will say about that, especially if you've listened to my podcast, our most recent episode where we had D1 softball, Tara Henry, join us on the show. Now, all of you who mentioned us at Inner Circle SB and gave your thoughts about what conferences we should be talking about on D2 Tuesday, we're getting to that right now. We have a lot of you wanting to talk about the Lone Star Conference, and of course, we are a podcast that listens to the people, and we will give the people what they want, because the podcast who once said that is no longer in existence. So we have probably carte blanche to say that place. We get the I won't say the actual line like one of the hosts says, but we will do what we can. Lone Star Conference, they are in conference play. Again, a true round robin. Everybody plays everybody in the conference. Right now, West Texas A&M, the lone undefeated team in conference play overall. The Lady Buffs 6-0 in conference play, 15-0 overall. Texas Tyler 7-2. Lubbock Christian, Oklahoma Christian, St. Edwards, and Cameron, they are currently in a tie at third at 6-3. Then got St. Mary's 4-2. Texas Women's, a surprising start for them, 5-4. Texas A&M Kingsville, a little rough start for the Javelinas, 3-3 in the conference play, 6-8 overall. They have Angelo State, Eastern New Mexico, Texas A&M International, UT Permian Basin, Western New Mexico, and Midwestern State bringing up the rear. Now, as we take a look at the conference schedule coming up this weekend, Lubbock Christian takes on Oklahoma Christian, and West Texas A&M versus Texas Tyler. We're going to find out. We're going to get some separation, I feel, with the Lone Star Conference coming up this weekend, because, as I referenced, Lubbock Christian takes on Oklahoma Christian. Oklahoma Christian will be hosting. UT Tyler will host West Texas A&M. Angelo State travels to Midwestern State. And a series that could have some tournament ramifications as we get further along down the line. St. Edwards travels to Kingsville to take on Texas A&M Kingsville. So that will be a very interesting series on what will happen there. And again, the biggest thing I want to stress in terms of the conference and the conference tournament, the top 10 teams make the Lone Star Conference tournament. The team who is the number 1 seed will host the Lone Star Conference tournament. So these 3-game series, that can go big, that can go a long way in determining who can get the tiebreaker and can determine who gets in, who gets the host, and who may be on the bubble come Selection Monday. And all I will say is that I just hope and pray when Selection Monday runs around for Division II that they don't have any technical issues like our friends, brothers, and sisters in Division III had when they tried to reveal the men's and women's basketball fields earlier this week. So that's all we will say about that. Lone Star Conference Players of the Week for the hitter side, Ashlyn Lerman, senior from Angelo State, 462, led the Red Bells to a 4-2 week, including that big series win versus then number 2 Texas Tyler. Kyra Laird, West Texas A&M, the pitcher of the week. We mentioned her perfect game with a program record 18 strikeouts versus UT Permian Basin. And by the way, this is the second straight weekend that Lair has taken home the Pitcher of the Week honors in the Lone Star Conference. So Kara Lair is making a strong case to try and make herself a possible candidate for a top 25 finalist for the Shut Sports Division II Player of the Year. That list will likely be announced in the middle part of April, and we'll definitely have coverage about that on D2 Tuesday. Hey, who knows? Maybe that comes out on a Tuesday afternoon, and we do a special D2 Tuesday talking about that. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We will knock on wood and see if that is indeed the case. We have some tweets from you wanting us to talk about the Northern Sun, the NSIC, and of course, again, We always listen to the people. If you want us to talk NSIC, that's exactly what we're going to do. Player of the week in the NSIC, St. Cloud State's Maggie Fitzgerald, the sophomore infielder, 6 of 9, had an on-base percentage of .727, 5 runs driven in. Pitcher of the week for Minnesota Duluth, a freshman, 5'9", Alyssa Williams, 9 scoreless innings over 3 appearances, 9 strikeouts, only 6 hits allowed, picked up 5 strikeouts in a performance versus number 12 Grand Valley State. And the Northern Sun Conference, we always associate that league with Augustana and Minnesota State. Now, it is very, very early in the season. Conference play hasn't started yet. Minnesota State, MSU Moorhead, really surprising start for them. 11-2, Minnesota Duluth 14-5, Minnesota State 6-2. But we're really going to see where some of these teams fall in and where they're going to be kind of piecing themselves in the conference picture when league play starts in a few weeks. And speaking of which, a lot of those teams are going to be making their way to Florida to participate in the spring games. Winona State, Concordia St. Paul, Winona State, Concordia St. Paul, St. Cloud State, Sioux Falls, Minnesota State. They are all going to be coming here to Claremont for the spring games. And we're really looking to see how that's going to fare itself out. Winona State's going to have a big opportunity Saturday morning as they will be taking on the defending national champions and number 1 ranked Hillcats of Rogers State. That's going to be a 9 a.m. first pitch in Claremont, 8 a.m. in Central Time. So a very big opportunity for Winona State to kind of put themselves on the national landscape. Augustana will be taking on Nebraska Kearney as part of a tournament over in Springfield, Missouri. Minnesota State will be taking on Cal U as part of the spring games in Claremont. Southwest Minnesota State will be making their annual trip to the Sunshine State. They'll be taking on Florida Southern in the doubleheader in Lakeland. Minnesota State will be taking on Tiffin. Tiffin also making their trip to Florida during their spring break process. Here's the interesting matchup I want to get everybody to keep an eye on. 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday afternoon in Springfield. Augustana, Central Oklahoma. 2 powerhouse programs doing battle, and that can go a long way potentially in terms of where the regional rankings could fall. And if it's close, do they consider the head-to-head between those two when we get closer to the postseason, which will be coming up very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. I know we blinked, the season started, we blink again, we're at the end of February. I know it's, and the next thing you know, all the conferences will be starting conference play. We're going to have regional rankings, and then we're going to talk about Player of the Year list, and then Selection Monday is going to be here, and then we're all going to take a deep breath and get ready for the postseason. That's how it is in college softball. We wait so long for the season to arrive. We blink, it is here. We blink again, and then, oh my goodness, we're a month in. And there's a lot of storylines to talk about. We'll bring them all to you here on D2 Tuesday. So I want to remind everybody, if you saw a tweet earlier in the day, D2 Tuesday, we're going to have a different start time. We tried at 2 p.m., but, a couple things didn't work out. So we're going to try and bring it out a little earlier to you. So we're going to bring it out around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 5 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. for those of you in the West Coast. So we'll give everybody an opportunity to listen to D2 Tuesday. We are working to, again, try and figure out what the schedule will be in terms of trying to bring coaches on to have those interviews interjected into our recap of Division II for the week. And also, hey, tweet at us. Tweet us your stories, what conferences you want us to talk about. And our goal will be to touch on every conference in Division II throughout the season up until a national champion is crowned Memorial Day Monday in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That is our mission. That is our objective. And we will make sure we honor that objective right here on D2 Tuesday. That will wrap up this episode of D2 Tuesday. Everyone enjoy your weekend. For all you fans traveling to Florida for the spring games, make sure you travel safe. Make sure you arrive in Florida safe and sound. And who knows, if you see a tall red-headed dude with sunglasses or on the fence or sitting in the stands this past weekend, that might be yours truly. Say hello. If I'm there, I'll shout you out on the next D2 Tuesday. But we will keep you updated on that. Follow us on our Twitter account to see what plans that we do have in store for our coverage of D2 Tuesday. So until next week, Victor Anderson signing off. You have been listening to D2 Tuesday. Good night, Canada.